I first met the Honourable B. Firth when we were flying to Ottawa for the convention which finally elected Mulroney as the leader of the Conservative Party. B. Firth is a cabinet minister from Yukon. She's an MLA there. And you're actually Minister, answer your roll call please. Are you Minister of Education?
Education, advanced education and manpower.
You
Tourism.
spelled in the line. I was going to ask you one at a time. Education?
Education.
Yes. Recreation?
Recreation.
Manpower and tourism?
Manpower and tourism.
Heritage?
Heritage and cultural resources. We've just changed it, Jack. We just moved the recreation department from education into the tourism. So it's now called tourism, recreation and culture.
Before we get down to business, which guy did you back at the Tory convention? And
Jack, I haven't told anyone that. That's my secret. I backed Joe Clark in the beginning. We had a commitment to Joe Clark in Yukon to support him.
And then you switched to Mulroney.
And then we switched.
What do you think of Mulroney?
I think he's fantastic. Brian and Mila were just in the Yukon. We had a tremendously successful dinner. They had probably the largest, I think it was the largest dinner that had ever been held in the Yukon, so it was an event of the century. Almost 500 people turned out.
Now, for people who haven't met you before, you were a nurse to trade, were you not?
That's right.
How long have you lived in the Yukon?
16 years.
What is your abiding interest apart from your husband and your job?
I have animals that I look after, horses, dogs. I spend my holidays in the Yukon with my husband.
And?
I hunt. That's what you want to hear me say.
That's what I want to hear you say.
You want to hear me say I hunt.
I want to see you hunt. There's nothing wrong about hunting, is there?
No, there isn't. Jack, a lot of people come to Yukon because of the hunting. And they find out that we're not such different people in the Yukon. We have interests that are particular to the area we live.
But you're one of the last of the big game areas where big game is available. Do you have good stocks of big game?
We have good stocks. We're a mecca for Dall sheep. Mecca of North America for hunting Dall sheep. We have hunters come from all over the world.
Is that the ones with the big cuddly horns?
That's right, the white, magnificent sheep.
We have a few in British Columbia, don't we?
I don't know if you do. You probably do in the mountains, in the northern mountains.
Okay, caribou?
Yes.
Wolverine? You've shot caribou, have you?
I've shot caribou, bear, moose. I've never shot a wolverine.
What is a wolverine?
It's a predator.
One step short of a wolf, or one step?
Well, no, it's a much smaller animal than a wolf. It's a very vicious animal, and you don't see wolverine very often. They're usually further in the bush, and they'll destroy your camp just as a bear would.
How about black bear?
Black bear and grizzly bear.
How big was the one you shot?
It was an average black bear. I didn't take any measurements. It wasn't anything outstanding. So.
But is this one of the great attractions of the Yukon for tourism?
Yes, it is. The outfitting business is a very profitable business in Yukon. The outfitters, they're not wealthy by any means. Most of them have jobs to support their outfitting business. But we have a lot of European people come to hunt big game in the Yukon. Germans, Swiss,
Swiss,
Austrian.
Europe, they're very big in big game hunting.
Yes, and a lot of American hunters.
Do you charge much for tags? I know there was a big fuss in British Columbia a couple of years ago because the tags either weren't dear enough or they were too dear. Have you any idea what the tags are for a big game?
We have a different fee for the visiting hunters, and the tags vary in the hundreds of dollars, and then there's another fee structure for the local hunters.
So local tags are much cheaper than for those who come in?
And the license as well.
What would a big game safari cost me in the Yukon? Say there was half a dozen people in it. It might cost you, what, $20,000?
Well, they usually don't take people out in large groups. You book on an individual basis, and it can cost you anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000.
Right. Now, what about jobs? What about education in the Yukon these days? Are you having to cut back your teachers and going through the same kind of trauma that we're going through in British Columbia?
Well, we haven't cut back the teachers. We did have some cost-cutting measures in Yukon when we cut the salaries back, the prospective increases that they were going to get. They were to get an 8.5 increase, and we rolled it back to 6 to abide by the 6 and 5. Our enrollments are declining, Jack, so we've had a loss of about 200 pupils in Yukon, so we've lost teachers due to resignations and transfers
Attrition.
and so on. Attrition, that's right.
But enrollment is cutting back, of course, because the mining industry, is it still a way off?
It is off. There is some talk now that Cypress Anvil is up for sale officially, and there are some discussions about, some people are feeling very positive that something may happen there. The enrollments have gone down probably most drastically in Faro, which is the Cypress Anvil site.
That's right. I remember it was specially opened last year. Didn't the federal government help to keep you?
Yes, we have a stripping program that's active.
Is that Dome that's in there?
Yes.
It's Dome. Okay, what's the tourist industry worth to, say, worth last year to the Yukon?
1982 was about 51 million, 81, 51 million, 82, 65 million. And we're hoping to boost that up to 100 million if we can.
100 million. Are you still getting the ships from here and up with the tourists? Not many ships from Vancouver.
Well, the ships are coming, but the rail is not operating, so we're busing. A lot of the busing companies, motor coach companies, have been accommodating the visitors to take them to Whitehorse from Skagway.
Is the White Pass in Yukon not running anymore?
No, it's not.
Is that closed down?
Well, there has been no official announcement that it's permanent, but it's not functioning now, and they're still in negotiations.
But you can still go by bus from where? Skagway?
From Skagway to Whitehorse.
Skagway to Whitehorse. How about getting to Dawson?
You go by motor coach. Most of our travelers, Jack, about 77% are independent travelers, we call them. They have their own motor home or their own vehicle.
I was up there once at 33 below in Whitehorse days. What month of the
In February, that would be at Rendezvous, you were there, I believe.
That's right. I did not carry the 600-pound sack of flour on my back either.
I carried 400 pounds one year when I was much younger and active in Rendezvous.
Mind you, you're standing up when you get it on your back off the truck, aren't you?
No, we didn't have trucks in those days when I did it. It was free flour packing.
And you had to
no
lift
truck,
it.
that's right.
You'd have to roll under it and stand up.
No, the weight of the flour just pulls you over backwards, and it's a very dangerous thing, flour packing.
I know, it cripple you for life.
It can, yes.
But somebody always does it, don't they? Okay, B. Firth. Let's have some calls from Yukon and anywhere else this morning about the Yukon. You've only been a cabinet minister for how long now?
1.5 years.
And you've only been in the government for how long now?
1.5 years.
That matches. Be mindful of these things when you're questioning B. Firth, Minister of Education and Tourism, from Whitehorse. I suppose there are a number of people out there who still think of Yukon in the way that W.C. Fields used to portray it. He'd stand at the door of an old shack and he would open the door, you know, in the Yukon. Somebody would throw in a handful of corn flakes and he'd say, "'Tain't a fit night out for man nor beast." It's not that bad, the weather in the Yukon, is it?
No, it isn't, Jack. We are having beautiful weather right now. We have a skiff of snow and beautiful sunny skies and 0-degree temperatures, but we adjust to that. It's quite comfortable.
Yeah, mind you, it's pretty expensive to heat your house in the Yukon.
It can be expensive. It's expensive to live in the Yukon, but that's...
Go ahead from Cassiar, way up there somewhere, but in British Columbia.
Good morning, Jack.
Morning.
My question for Mrs. Firth. A couple of years ago in Whitehorse, they had a public plebiscite on whether to retain drinking in public or not. And even though the majority of voters decided that they would like to have public drinking, City Council decided it wasn't good. In a democratic society, how does that happen?
Well, perhaps you'll have to call City Council and ask them. I really can't respond for City Council's decisions.
But you can answer the question, what do you think about drinking in public?
I think it's great.
Oh, no, I know you think it's great because you're up in Cassiar where there's not that many of the public to watch you drinking in public. But you don't recommend, do you, drinking in public in the streets of Vancouver, do you now?
I don't go to Vancouver all that often.
Now, obviously, B, you don't recommend boozing in the streets of Whitehorse or anywhere else, do you?
No, I don't recommend boozing on the streets of Whitehorse.
What else do you do up in Cassiar, this particular gentleman, apart from drink in the streets?
Oh, I work up here. I just got off of graveyards. Tuned you in to give you a call.
Ah, it's nice of you. How's your job? Quite secure?
It stinks, but it's money.
What kind of job is it?
Oh, I work up in the mine garage fixing trucks.
Oh, well, what, 15 bucks an hour?
A little more.
A little more, 18 bucks an hour.
16 and change.
16 and change. Teamsters?
Pardon me?
Are you Teamsters?
No, steel worker.
Steelworkers. Okay, much obliged.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to learn a little bit about callers from faraway places. Go ahead, please, to B. Firth.
Morning, B. Firth. I was talking to a Yukon gold miner over the weekend, and he claims that that big city disease called bureaucracy has infected the Yukon. The environmentalists, he says, are forcing legislation that will end surface gold mining. Would you comment on that, please?
Well, we have been presenting briefs at hearings regarding the new federal guidelines that are going to be imposed on the placer mining industry. And Yukon has been standing up and saying, look, placer mining is alive and well in Yukon, and we wish to keep it that way. And who are these people that want to impose these guidelines and shut all the placer mining down? And we find out that it is, in fact, the environmentalists, and there are some controversies over the fishing limits, too.
Placer mining has been a traditional way of mining for gold in the Yukon and northern BC and the interior for years.
Placer mining is part of the heritage of Yukon.
And you don't see anything wrong with it done properly.
That's right.
Okay, there's your answer from B. Firth. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack.
Morning.
Morning to the lady. I just wondered, I drove a tractor trailer into Yukon and right up to Alaska. There's one thing I found when I was sitting in a pub one night. The tourists coming up to hunt in the Yukon. There was 3 American gentlemen sitting at the next table, and I overheard the conversation.
Go on.
And they were talking about they had their game already waiting for them up there.
What do you mean had the game already tied up, waiting to be shot in a moose
They were already shot. They had the antlers and everything.
Had they been there?
They haven't got to where they were going, but it's already waiting for them. They're going to pay for everything.
No, I've never heard of any allegations.
That sounds like a real Yankee big game hunting expedition.
I think you're right.
Sounds like a fish story to me, Jack.
Yeah, a little bit fishy. Even Americans wouldn't do that, you know. Go ahead from Whitehorse.
Yes, hi, is that me?
That's you.
Yeah, Jack, I just want to say to Bea that she's looking darn good coming over the air here, and tell them about the way we want to keep going here in the Yukon and the way we want to be part of Canada. This is Lance.
Hello, Lance. I'll tell Jack that.
Okay, you're coming over beautiful.
Thank you, Lance.
Thank you, Lance. Here's another call from Whitehorse. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Jack.
Yeah.
And Bea, I just want to remind Bea to invite you up for the rendezvous.
Can't come in February. I'm working. Unless it's on a weekend.
Every time we ask you, you say that you weren't invited. I caught you over in Salt Spring Island one Saturday afternoon, and you told me you weren't invited. Nobody asked you.
Were the tears running down my face?
Tears were running right down your cheeks.
I'll invite Jack to the Yukon again. I think he needs a refresher course anyways on the Yukon.
Be sure to invite him up, Bea.
I will.
I'm not carrying 400 pounds of flour on my back.
No, you won't have to do that, Jack. We'll take care of you.
Thanks very much. Well, who knows? Might be a good ANG for the weekend. Eh? Is it on a weekend?
Rendezvous is, the celebrations go on all week, but the major ones are on the weekend.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning, ma'am. Can you please tell me where I might get a list of mining operations in the Yukon to include location, number of employees, and even key local personnel of the mining operation?
You want to sell something?
Precisely.
You could contact the Chamber of Mines in Whitehorse.
Okay.
Don't you have a guy in Vancouver? You used to have a Yukon house here, didn't you?
Yes, we don't have that anymore, Jack.
Yeah, Chamber of Mines, Whitehorse, and tell them B. Firth sent you.
Thank you very much.
You'll get it, no problem at all. Go ahead, please.
Hello, is that Minister? Can I speak to Minister B?
Yeah.
Hello, Minister B.
I'm here. Hello.
Hello, it's Tony Sinclair speaking, and you've done me a great disservice this morning. Every time I hear about the blooming Yukon, I get a great big lump in my throat. I was very privileged to have played Diamond Tooth Gertie up there for 2 years running, and also did Rendezvous. And I'd just like to take this opportunity of saying to all my friends and buddies up there, hello in Dawson City and Yukon and Whitehorse, and also just to let them know I'd love to come up again, so please invite me.
What about saying hello to me, Tony?
Hello, me old darling. Listen, I can talk to you anytime. But, Jack, there is one thing. You really should go up there, again, just to clear out the cobwebs.
Their
cobwebs? These days.
That's a good idea.
What did you say about me?
Clear out your cobwebs,
Clear out the cobwebs, me old darling.
She said I was looking old.
Well, older. I think the makeup, something's happened to your makeup this morning.
Yeah, I'm looking pasty-faced.
Anyway, welcome to British Columbia, and hello everybody up there.
Okay, Tony.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, what are you paying for gas up there?
Gas is $2.60 a gallon, gallon-wise, 54 point something a liter, or 44 point something a liter.
It's not that much more than us. What do we pay here? We pay 50 cents a litre, don't we? Roughly speaking.
54.4
Yeah.
liter, yeah.
Anything else?
That's in Whitehorse, though.
Yes, that is. It costs more the more further north you go.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Bee. This is Sourdough Sue Ward over here in Richmond, where I'm putting in a little winter before returning to my little home on Princess Street in Dawson City, just around the corner from your family home. And last time I met you was the opening of the new tourist visitors recreation building in Dawson this last summer. And I would just like to ask you if you would just clue some of the people in on the tremendous program that Parks Canada has underway in Dawson City. I spent last summer as a bus tour guide taking hundreds and hundreds of people around Dawson and up the Gold Creeks and panning for gold. And it really was the highlight of their trip, and many of them had come from even the eastern seaboard or from Australia and England.
Did you ever stop talking when you were on the bus tours?
This is on the tour buses that Bee was telling you, pick up the people from down in...
Great stuff, great stuff, great stuff. Bee, thanks very much for coming in this morning.
You're very welcome, Jack.
Bee Firth, Minister of Education and Tourism for the Government of Yukon. Challenging, tough country, but a great place for tourists.
Yes, it is.
See you again. Thanks
Thank you,
very
Jack.
much, Bee. Next